Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hormone Helper podcast. I'm Coach Andrew, your hormone helper from Fit for All Fitness. I personally coach over 1,600 men and women to help better understand their hormones so they can lose weight and get their metabolism back on track. With this podcast, you're going to hear from me and my special guests about everything from metabolism to thyroid to weight loss. And we even talk a little bit of sexy time as we chat to spread more knowledge thick like butter on your hormones. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to share, so let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I have so much to share for this episode because I truly believe that every single person working on their health and fitness can take a page from my book, and I call that page the Fast Action page. I have come across over this past week, I say with probably 11 people-ish, from friends, family members, people that I've been talking to, all a bunch of people who have goals, who want to achieve those goals, and yet for some reason, they're just not taking action, or they're still deciding if they want to go all in, if they want to make that change. Stuff, especially regarding your health and fitness, is not stuff that you can wait on, and people believe that they have a long time or a long opportunity, a long window in which they can take action on. But that's not how life works. You see, life is not linear. You're going to have times where you're busy, times where you're not busy, times where you miss an opportunity, times where something might pass you by without you even realizing it. And that's why you have to make quick decisions and you have to take fast action towards a goal or to whatever you're trying to accomplish. Okay. Basically, taking fast action means shortening the time between making decisions and actually implementing the action steps. So here's an example that I want to share with you, okay? This past week, I think on last Sunday, okay, and it's Wednesday now, I was thinking to myself, coming back from Japan, I haven't really set a health goal in a long time. I've been really good at maintenance. I want to challenge myself. I want to take myself to the next level. So in that moment, I decided I'm going to change up my food. I'm going to start changing up my activity. So here's what I literally did within that day. Within that same day, I changed up my food plan. I created a new food routine. I built out a workout schedule. I then went and picked up what I needed at the grocery store. I meal prepped that same day, and then I started taking action on it. And then immediately, I went and I worked out with a couple of friends, a group of guys, and they were like, whoa, like this, what you're doing is different. You're looking a lot different. Like what's going on? Something feels different being around you right now. And I said, well, remember how we had talked about wanting to push ourselves a little further? Well, after our conversation, I decided that I wanted to do that. I made a plan. I implemented that plan, and I'm just taking action on it. And I felt like a long period of silence from them. And I was like, what's up? And that's when they had shared, they were like, well, I would love to do something like that, but, and then I heard all of the buts, the ifs, the excuses, the things. And what I was hearing was, hey, sounds like you are not all in on this. You have not decided whether or not you actually want to do this. Because you see, implementing quickly means starting towards your goals as soon as possible. It means leaving no room for excuses. It means removing the obstacle and barriers and taking action on something. Now, that being said, where a lot of people start to be really slow is where they've never done something before and they don't want to fail and they want their attempt to be perfect. So they're trying to build a version 1, like I like to call it. They're trying to build version 1, the most perfect version possible. Okay. And this is where I want to use the examples of phones. Phone companies don't worry about making a version perfect. They worry about improving on the next version. And that's what I worry about. And that's how I can take fast action. You see, my first attempt at this, my attempt at these changes, now I'm experienced. I know what it's like to work with food. I've made thousands of meal plans. I know how to be able to change my hormones. I understand all of that. But that being said, this goal of hitting 190 pounds, and I'll share it with you guys, hitting 190 pounds, 6% body fat, still keeping my body fat percentage, this is a challenge that I've never accomplished before. So it can be a little bit scary, a little bit intimidating for me to go, okay, should I do this? Is it really worth it? Do I want to make the changes on top of course, serving my clients and building a business? It's easy for me to stay consistent and do what I'm doing now. But this is where you have to eliminate all of the potential excuses and the obstacles and then move forward, starting towards your goal sooner. Because if you take fast action, you can then make changes and revisions faster. See, unlike the people who wait to start something, who wait to take action, if I apply something and it's unsuccessful, I can then look at what failed and then tweak that. Now, there's a little example which is really great. It actually comes from, I forget. I can't remember if it was Harvard, Yale. I don't know. Anyways, they had a pottery class and they basically assigned two groups of people. They had one group, okay, spend the entire semester to create the most perfect clay pot. And then they had the other group spend the entire semester creating as many pots as they possibly could. And the minimum was 1,000. Now, in both cases, you're like, well, what is the type of result that each person saw? Guess what? The people who made 1,000 clay pots actually made the best version of a pot and the most perfected version after the 1,000 because they had practice. They had shots at it. They saw what worked. They understood what didn't, and then they knew what to change. And things with your health and your fitness, it's the same thing. If you have never understood how to eat right for your body, even if you don't work with a coach, all you have to do is make adjustments with what you're doing. Start by adjusting macronutrients. Start by changing up your diet. Start by removing things that aren't serving you and see what the result is. See what changes. And then from there, you start to make better and better adjustments. It's the same thing with activity. A lot of people will tell you, oh, activity is really complicated. It's really not. You build muscle, you burn fat, you change up your routine so your body's always guessing. And you make sure that you have endurance and strength, and you have, of course, conditioning or lactic acid conditioning in there. Now, when you're changing up your routine, sure, there are going to be times where you hit a plateau. Great. That's when you make an adjustment, where you make a revision, where you make another clay pot. You see, you're not wasting time being stuck in the uncomfortable space of wanting to do something, but not actually feeling confident enough to take action on it. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. I come across people a lot of time who have health and fitness goals, but they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to get it wrong. They don't want to have to try a million times. They want to take the golden pill and have it work. But our clients that work with us, I'm so grateful that they're in a mindset where they're like, you know what? I know that there's not a golden solution. I know that it's not going to be perfect. I know that I'm going to have to implement the food, even if I have a busy schedule, that I'm going to have to find times with my workouts, even though I'm taking my kids to soccer, that I'm running my business and I'm still going to have to juggle my sleep and make sure that I have time for me. They understand that it's not going to be perfect. But the way that they make it better for them and they revise it is anytime we talk about something, every time I give them the next action step, they implement immediately. They're on it. And guess what? When it doesn't work, when it feels a little clunky, if something inevitably screws up with their routine, then we talk about it and we figure out what needs to be improved. If you are in this place where you feel uncomfortable, where you want to do it, but you don't have the confidence, what's going to happen is you're going to have an internal pressure. This internal pressure comes in the form of anxiety and stress. When we know that we can put a higher amount of effort into something, but we're not, we start to experience levels of anxiety. We feel anxious because we know that we're not giving it our all. You physically, mentally, and emotionally know when you are not showing up as the highest version of you. And that's the most beautiful part about it. Your body will literally physically tell you if you are not showing up at the highest version and the highest level of you. And I don't mean showing up at 100% every single day. I mean doing your best every day because your best looks different. Now, that lack of confidence is you haven't really built a habit of doing something even when you're not confident. And that's why you lack the confidence. There are so many of people that I come across where we start and they're like, hey, listen, like I'm lacking the confidence, but I'm willing to try. And you know what? When we start to do it and they start to see little results, the 2 pounds down per week, they start to get more energy, their knees don't hurt anymore. All of a sudden, they're like, holy shit, this works. And when it works, now you're building proof. And when it comes to your health and your fitness, it's important to understand that there's only so much information that we can take on. There's only so much that we can pull into ourselves to help us make a decision. Like you're listening to these podcast episodes, you're reading nutrition books, and you're taking seminars on your gut, and you're learning about your hormones because you want to change. You want to start seeing results, and you're tired of where you are right now. And it doesn't matter what made you uncomfortable. It could be that you don't like the way you look. Maybe you saw the number on the scale and you're like, oh shit, that's been higher than it is. And you don't like it. Whatever it is, that's your breaking point. So my question is to you, are you being too slow? Are you not actually doing anything about it? Are you delaying action? Because people delay action for a reason. Action is basically you taking hold of life and you saying, regardless of what is outside of my control, I can control how I react, I can control how I operate, and I can control how I show up every day. People delay action for a reason. And here are the 2 reasons. It's really, really simple. Number 1, you don't actually want to change. When I talk to people and their goals, I know in like 10 minutes when someone's not serious. And it doesn't matter what it is. I talk to tons of people about health, sure, but being a coach, people share their dreams with me all the time. I know people that want to start businesses. I know people that want to run charities. I know people that want to run marathons. They hear the word coach and immediately they're like, oh, here's my challenge. Here's my struggle. And I love hearing about this because I love unpacking it. But I also know 100% when they don't want to change. Because the first thing that happens when people don't want to change is when you bring up the thing, the challenge, when you say, well, why can't you just start? You hear the list of 1,000 excuses. You hear oh, but work is really busy right now and I have to finish this project. You hear, oh, but my kids take up a lot of time, so I have to take them to soccer instead of working out. You hear oh, well, organic food is really hard to find and I have to drive really far. Some of the excuses aren't even realistic. It's like, oh, well, my life is really hard and you don't understand because you're not me. And the reality is I do understand. Sure, I may not have your struggle. No, everyone's struggle is different. But as a coach, I understand full well how difficult life can be. Remember, I've had hormone issues my entire life, struggling to keep hormones stable, and I made it work. I became a business owner, never running a business a day in my life, and no one ever taught me how to run one, struggling to make it work until I found the solution. I was never given a free job or a handout or a connection with somebody. But you know what? Somehow became a licensed mechanic, became a licensed tower crane operator, became a certified personal trainer, became a nutritionist, and then started to work on people with hormones. All of those things, I had no idea. I had no way of starting. I didn't understand the steps involved. It took way more work than I thought it was going to do, but I succeeded in every single thing because I wanted to change. And sometimes there are things that subconsciously, and this is a subconscious thing too, subconsciously it may not even be that you don't want to change. Maybe you feel really comfortable with where you are right now. Maybe you're just like, hey, you know what? Like, sure, I'm overweight, but you know what? Like, I don't know. I feel okay. Maybe I don't actually really want the weight loss. Maybe I actually don't really want my bloating to go away. Maybe it doesn't bother me that much for me to do something about it. Or subconsciously, maybe I know the work that's involved, and so my body wants to keep me the same. And that's because a lot of us understand that with change comes challenge. And challenge is not bad. Notice how I didn't say struggle. Okay? Struggle is a word for people who have excuses. People who use excuses are people who struggle. Because what you're saying is that it's hard, that you lack, that you are experiencing need. And it's so interesting because all the people that I talk to on our group coaching calls, they never use the word struggle. They use the word challenge. My challenge is this. And you know what? At the very beginning, they're very clear. Listen, this has been a challenge for me for a very long time. I have a challenge with my routine. I'm currently experiencing this challenge. They don't complain about struggles because you know what? The struggle is internal. The struggle is your mindset versus your will. Do you actually want it? Are you willing to put in the time to do it? So, number one could be that you don't actually want to change. And that's fine. There are a lot of people who don't want to put in the work required or fear that what it takes might be too much for them or they might fail. And so they don't want to change. But there is a second thing. Second thing is maybe the reason why you haven't started yet is because you're missing a key piece of information or you lack a specific tool to get you success. Like, for example, it took me about a full year before I started going into business because I was like, shit, like I actually don't know anything about business. And guess what? I had to hire a business coach. I was saying to myself, well, if I don't know anything about business, I got to work with someone who knows the information that I don't have. Because if I don't have it and I don't know, I'm going to be stuck in this. I can't make a choice on it. I can't take fast action. So immediately within the first year of me wanting to do it, guess what? I took action. I got a coach. And then they showed me the basics of business. Because sometimes it really is, you can't start because you're missing something. And there's a lot of stuff, right? So for example, with food, like nutrition is very overwhelming. There's 100 different diets. Some people don't even know macronutrients, micronutrients. You don't know how to eat for your body type. You don't know if the right foods are right. You don't know what time you should be eating your meals. You don't even know if what you're doing from a diet perspective is helping or hindering your goals. That's a lot of information you need. And while you don't need 100% of that info, you do require a place to start. And so if you don't know what place to start, this is where it could be that you haven't started yet because you're missing a key piece of information. Now, what about a tool, right? Let's say you want to go and you want to start a construction job in your house. And you know you got to take down a wall, but you don't own a hammer, you don't own a saw, you don't own a drill. Well, how are you going to demolish the wall and then put up the wall? You know what's involved, you know what the end result is, and so you know you need tools. And there are a lot of tools that coaches use for health and fitness that people actually need. So a tool, for example, like an app that has your workout routine that adjusts as you're making revisions and as you're doing your activity. Maybe you're missing the tool that comes from a coach with accountability. If you don't have the right tool, if you're trying to, quote unquote, take the wall down with your hands, you're going to have a hell of a hard time. And you know what? You're probably not going to start because you know it's going to be a really painful experience. If you knew you had to punch holes with your hands in drywall to try and tear it down, you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. My hands are going to hurt like crazy. And that pain is stuff that we want to avoid. So there's a lot of times where we're missing key information with our health. And even key information can be simple as you don't know where your hormones stand. You haven't done blood work for your thyroid. You've never talked to someone to measure where your regular blood work is at. You haven't gone to your doctor to do a health checkup in a long time. All of these things are information that you probably need as a starting point. You don't know what your weight is, like you've never weighed yourself before. You don't know what your body fat percentage is. All of these things are key pieces of information. And then the tools could be, you might be missing the right nutrition plan, the right training program, the right evaluation of symptoms for you to understand and help you get the success that you want. So I get that. Now, here's what I have to say to both of these. For the first one, if you're in the camp of non-changers, I'm just going to ask you straight up, why are you even listening to this podcast? Why are you even thinking about the goal? Why on earth would you want more information? Why on earth would you seek more support, more seminars if you're not actually going to act on anything? Why are you forever window shopping the dreams and goals of your life? And a lot of people do this. They want a goal, but they put it behind glass and they think if they keep looking at it, that it's close enough for them and they're okay with that. And I'll tell you something, no coach or resource can help you if you are unwilling to change. These are the people who buy 50 books and it sits on the shelf. These are the people who go to a seminar, who furiously write notes, and then right after the seminar, they never look at the sheet again. These are people who look for one-off calls, who are like, hey, I want to hop on a single call with a naturopath. I want to visit my doctor once, and I just want to complain and vent. But I don't actually want to apply anything. The unwillingness to change is your problem. That is the main thing that you got to focus on every single day. Because if you are unwilling to change, then you're not going to take action on anything. And that's why you're not taking fast action. So to those people, it's tough because I can't relate to you. There's no connection that's there. Because everything in my life, I've been willing to change because I know I can change. I have the capacity. And that's why I only speak to people who know that they can change. Now, here's the thing. I know that if you're listening, it's most likely because you're already taking action and you want to change. You're not like Andrew, like I'm not like listening to this podcast just for the sake of listening. I'm not buying books and never reading them. I'm not going to seminars and never applying stuff. Like it's most likely because you're in the second group, you're already taking action, but you most likely have a small stall because you don't know what to do next. And I understand that. It's frustrating when you've never gone to a place, when you've never hit a goal, when you've never tried something like this. And you're like, where the hell do I begin? I'm stuck at this plateau. Who do I speak to next? Do I get blood work next? Do I work on my nutrition next? Should I be training next? All of that can be overwhelming. And we get stuck in this analysis paralysis where we do want to make the perfect choice because we don't want to fall back on our journey. And I get that. But here's where coaching comes into play. Here's where working with the right professional is going to support you. Here's how a person like me, I don't know why I said me, can help you change that. Because through the process, having someone who's not stuck in the struggle, think about like getting lost in a cornfield. When you're lost in a cornfield, it's great that you have tons of tools and ideas and resources, but the reality is you're stuck. And when you're in it, when you're in the thick mud of challenge and struggle, it's hard to take fast action because you don't know what's up or down, what's left or right, what's forward, and what's detracting. But you do know that if you stay in one spot, at least you know where you are in this moment. You're lost, but you're in the same place. Having someone, a coach, that is outside your struggle can see the entire cornfield at length. They're basically sitting on a rock and they can see you. And they can see where your end destination is. And they can see where you're stuck. And they can also relate because they've also been stuck in that cornfield as well. And so this is where a coach guides you and provides you the tool, maybe the tool to cut some of the corn down in your way, or they provide you that knowledge or that relief to say, hey, you know what? You are doing the right thing, or you are on the right path. Make these tweaks, take a left, and keep going straight. Follow the sound of my voice. And that's where we go from being stalled to having the confidence to continue to then see success. Because there are a lot of things that happen, especially with a health and fitness goal, where we might feel we can't take fast action. Like you're stuck on your weight loss, you haven't seen the scale go down. Well, in this case, people who are stuck in weight loss, they almost don't want to change food because they don't want to regain weight. But the worst thing that can happen is you don't lose any more weight, or that weight slowly rebounds anyways. So you might as well risk making the change. You might as well do something different because your weight's highly going to rebound. Or maybe something like not sure what to eat for your hormones, where you don't know if pre or post menopause, or if food is causing your estrogen to raise, or if you need more testosterone. Well, if you don't take any action, here's what I can promise you. Your hormones are going to gradually get worse over time. Your cycles are going to change every 28 to 32 days. Your stress is going to increase. Your thyroid's going to be stressed out. So you're going to have to make that change. And maybe you're not sure how to change up your activity. Like you're like, hey, I haven't seen any strength changes for a while, but like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to push myself too much. So I'm unsure. Well, here's what I can tell you. If you don't challenge your muscles, you're going to muscle waste. Maybe you're not sure how to get rid of cravings or how to actually digest food without having stomach issues. Well, in this case, fast action might look like I'm going to slowly remove items that cause me triggers, that cause my digestion to be off, so that way I can actually start with a clean slate and then work on putting these foods back. You see, each and every one of these things are things that we come across every single day. And there's also stuff with work. But the stalled action comes from that inability to either see where you have to go next, or a lack of a tool or a specific thing that you need to do to move forward. And each of the things I just talked about, each and every one of these things, we go over in our 16-week Vantage program. And it's 12 to 16 weeks, actually, because we don't just create a plan for you. I teach you how to understand your body so you can feel confident knowing how it operates and what you need to fuel each day. I know how to show you from a training perspective how to train right for your body type. I also show you from a habit perspective how we alter your system, your routines, to be able to keep these habits consistent. Now, here's what I am going to say. A program actually isn't enough. Because remember, it's not about more information. You have a shit ton of info already that you can do for your health and your fitness that 99% of you are not taking action on. It's about implementing the info that you're getting and the recommended changes that we suggest, of course, through the process. Sure, I help you take fast action. And we do it confidently by making sure, things like your food is realistic to shop and cook for, things like your workouts are actually alongside your family work and in your work schedule. I show you that a way that we can design your routines and place boundaries around it to protect your time. Sure, I help you take that fast action on that. But you got to implement, and you got to do it quickly, even if it's not perfect, even if it looks ugly. Because if we don't work through the ugliness and we only seek the perfection, we're going to take too long and we're going to be worse than when we started. And this is where I come across people who, want to work to save money, but are still flat broke. They don't have $1 saved. They want to lose 20 pounds, but in the waiting for more information or to decide, they're now 40 pounds heavier. And that's when I realized it. I realized that fast action is what people needed, because in the past, and I'll share with you personally, I was a painfully slow action taker. All through my college years, all through learning how to be an automotive tech and how to be a crane operator, I saw people who just put their head down, took action, and it was imperfect. And I saw them get to where I wanted to be faster. Like I failed my automotive exam 2 times, and I only had 3 chances to take that exam. And you know what? Each and every time I knew that I was crappy in electrical. I knew that I didn't have the knowledge. I knew that I didn't have the tools to do the test. That was the part of the test that I bombed every time. But you know what? a year between each test, every year, I didn't do it. I didn't reach out to somebody. I didn't get support. I didn't study, even though I knew that's what I needed to do. And guess what? The next year came by and I failed again. And then I got a call. I got a call from the ministry and they said, hey, guess what? You got one more shot at this or you have to redo all 3 years of schooling again. And you know what? You know what really made me take action when I said, snap out of it, this is enough, is I had an amazing shop foreman who was like, dude, don't you feel embarrassed? What are you doing? You're working at Mercedes-Benz. You can't pass this test. You got every car and every tool you need right here. Why aren't you using it? And I was like, this guy's right. I would either be completely moronic if I stood in this place, or I'd be telling myself I don't want to be a mechanic. And guess what? I decided in that moment, hey, I want to be a mechanic. I want to say I'm a mechanic licensed for Mercedes-Benz. Not for the fame, and believe me, there's no fame involved in being a mechanic, okay? But I wanted to do it for me. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And so I had to take the action. I had to say, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to do the test. I'm going to study. I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to ask my shop foreman, listen, will you teach me? And you know what he said? He goes, oh, you're going to learn. Not a problem. And he threw every electrical job at me for the next 8 months until my test. And I learned. And guess what? I learned slowly. I learned through trial and error, seeing what worked and seeing what didn't. And don't worry, everyone's car got fixed okay. All right? There was always someone who double checked my work, but I learned along the way. And in investing that, I recognized that I cannot afford to take action slowly. Because the trial and error is where I learned the best tools, got the best resources, and actually was able to realize how to implement it for me. And now electrical is like one of the most easiest things for me for cars. Because that was the greatest thing that I struggled with. And I took that challenge and I made it my greatest strength. Now, you're probably saying this in your head. What about fear, Andrew? I want to do it. I hear what you're saying. I know what fast action is. I actually know that I have the info. I know what my next step is. I know that I need to reach out to a person, but I'm scared shitless. What about fear, Andrew? You know what? That's actually something that a person on our group coaching call said like 2 days ago. Like, what if I want to change, but I'm scared? Okay. Here's my question back to you. What the hell are you scared for? Here is what fear is. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's you trying to think of things in your brain, trying to generate stuff that hasn't happened to prevent you from feeling struggle. Your body wants you to stay and feel the same. And you know what's the same? What you're doing right now. You might not like it, but it's not scary enough for you to take action. And the reason why I say fear is false evidence appearing real is because the evidence actually doesn't exist. See, in order for us to take fast action, we have to have so much evidence that it's beneficial for us to take action that we do it immediately. Like, for example, if I told you guys, hey, if you lose 10 pounds in the next month, I will give you $1 million. And I write the check in advance and the bank says, yep, it's here for you. Wouldn't you start on your weight loss? Hell yeah. Because you have so much evidence. The money's there. The bank says it's good. I have the right meal plan and tool that you would take immediate action on it. So here's where the fear comes into play. False evidence appearing real. When we generate enough false evidence, enough negative evidence for it to overwhelm our potential for success, we freeze. And here's why I call it false evidence. Because it hasn't happened yet. You're anticipating something that's not real, and that's why it's fake. You're thinking to yourself, I'm going to start a weight loss journey, and I'm not going to succeed, and I'm going to gain an extra 40 pounds. You don't even know that that's going to happen. You're anticipating failure, but the failure has never happened yet. And guess what? The absolute worst case scenario, this is where you break down the evidence, okay? It appears real because it feels emotional to you. Every time we feel a negative, we attach emotion to it. But let me show you how to break this down. Actually bring the fear up. Okay, what if I try a new meal plan? What if I try changing my nutrition and it doesn't work? Okay, well, you're in the same spot where you are now, searching for another solution. Is that really so bad? What if I try to save money? What if I try to save $100,000, but I don't hit $100,000 in a year? I only hit $10,000. Well, guess what? You have $10,000 saved, and that's $10,000 more than you had last time. You see, all of our failed attempts are not true failures. True failure is when you stop trying. And that's why fast action is the only route. Once you start weighing the things that you're afraid of and you start seeing that the evidence that's in front of you is actually not real evidence, and you start just saying to yourself, what if I bring up everything that I'm scared about and I say it out loud. Here's why I'm afraid to start. Here's why I'm afraid to try. Here's why I'm afraid to make a choice today. And then you say, well, is this something real? Will this actually happen? Or am I just anticipating something that might never be? And think about this. Sometimes you see that the fear is so irrational, it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, you say, I don't want to drive because I'm afraid I'm going to get in an accident. My wife will die. Well, I use that as an example because it's so irrational. Because guess what? You could be sleeping in bed and die randomly for no reason. Why are you not afraid of that? Because it feels irrational. We're like, well, that would never happen, right? Or for example, you're not afraid of never having a meal because you've eaten every single day in your life. So to say, well, what if I never have a meal ever again? You would never let that happen because your will is too strong, because you would do what's required to succeed. So in knowing that, all of the false evidence that comes up in our life can never be real. And when it's not real, you realize, hey, I can actually start to take action on this. I can actually start making changes. And I bet you any money you want, that after listening to this, you're going to want to take action, right? Because you're thinking about things that you want. You're thinking about the health goal that's on the back burner. And you're like, you know what? I know I've been BSing my start. I know I say January. I know I say after the big business project. But you know what? The reality is I can start right now. I'm just bullshitting myself. You want to take action, right? But where do you start? Well, you're going to start with this. Right now, you need to write down what your goals are and you need to say them out loud. You're going to say what you want to accomplish. This is what I want to accomplish. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to gain more energy. I want to run a mile. I want to say my business, make more money. Say it out loud, because the moment you say a goal out loud, or even to somebody else, and that's even more powerful, say it to someone else. Say it in a group. Like we have our people in our Vantage program in the container. We have them say all their goals while everyone is on the call. The moment we say it to someone else and we say it out loud, we have now manifested it. It has to happen now. Then the most important step, you're going to ask yourself, what is one thing that I can do today? No, actually forget that. What's one thing that I can do right freaking now, actually to move the needle forward on this? Maybe it's like, hey, you know what? I've been dodging coaching. Maybe I got to book that discovery call with Coach Andrew and I got to see what it's like in the program to straighten that out. Maybe it's, hey, you know what? I've been putting up my meal prep for too long. So I'm going to bite the bullet. And guess what? I'm going to drive to the grocery store right now. Maybe it's workouts. So you know what? You say, hey, my work schedule is right now, but guess what? I can literally put my shoes on at 5:30 after work and I can go for a 15-minute run. There is always a step that you can do right now and take it. Because fast action works when you start proving to yourself that you can start. Don't worry about if you don't succeed. Don't worry about if it doesn't give you 100% of the result that you want, because this is version 1. Version 1 is driving to the grocery store. Version 2 is driving to the grocery store and then washing your vegetables and pre-chopping them. Version 3 is grocery store, chop, and then put them into containers for the week. Version 4 is you have 2 set days during the week where your wife does one and you do the other. Like, the versions will continue to grow. It'll continue to adapt. It's not going to look the same every day. But just as our versions improve, we become better and better at it, and we become faster and faster at implementing the changes. And this is where you'll see the most successful people with their health and fitness, the people who never have to worry about their weight, the people who can maintain their routine very easy, the people who always seem to find time to get their workouts in. They make shifts on the fly like lightning fast. Like, it doesn't even register to them that they've made the adjustment. They're like, oh, work time, boom, shifted my routine. It's that quick. Take the page from this book today. Take fast action. You have to take fast action, because the moment you stall, you are taking longer and longer to hit your goal, and your goal is going to become harder and harder for you, and it becomes an uphill battle. Think about this. Imagine trying to lose 180 pounds versus losing 20 when it comes up. It takes longer. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be a lot harder because now you have added weight that you're trying to work with versus the first 20. Don't let it get bad. Hit the goal. Do the thing that you're going to do. Strive for that. Because when you go that far, past action becomes a permanent page in your book. And that's what I want you guys to do. So that's all I have to share for this episode. Would love to hear from you guys any other topics that you feel are coming up. We do have an email that's going to be dedicated just for any topics. You can send it to info@fit4allstudio.com. That's our admin one. If you have other topics that you want to hear on the podcast, drop it in. But we're going to start talking a lot more about action. We're going to be starting to talk a lot more about things that you can do immediately. And it's not just going to be information and tools, because the reality is you know and have a lot of information already, but why aren't you doing it? And that's a big thing, because I'll tell you something, and it's not like a kind of a knock, or I'm not trying to put anybody down, but there are people who have achieved what you've wanted in half the time it's taken you to think. And like, that should be blowing your mind. You should be like, shit, I got to get on this. I got to do it. And take the fast action page and start today. Okay. Thanks guys so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye. Well, it seems I'm all out of info juice for today. That's all for this episode. And thank you so much for listening. Please leave a raving review for me if you've learned something good, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're in the mood for some more great content and tools to get your hormones on track, why not check out our free Facebook group and the blog on our site? We do amazing weekly trainings in our group that me and my wife call Tea and Teachings, that give good tips for anything hormones and metabolism related. It's also a great community where you get to share your goals and success with like-minded people just like you. I'll make sure to drop both the Facebook group link and the blog link in the show notes for you. Or if you're ambitious like me, the name of the group is Weight Loss and Balanced Hormones. It'll say Fit for All beside it with a picture of me. So come and join us and have more fun.